Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood. Sitting here with my buddy Lee Shands, my co-host. And today, we've got a good friend from Michigan to talk to, Ben Kuncaitis. And me and Ben go way back from, well, first, welcome, Ben.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
We tried to have Ben on a while back, but he had thunderstorms and we had technical difficulties, but we got him now. So I met Ben back, I don't want to even go back in time. I'll count the years as maybe 20, Ben.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. 2005, I think, is what it was.
Okay, yeah. He came up on a bear hunt. That's how I met Ben.
Yes.
Shot him a bear and brought his wife with him. Had a good time, right?
Yes, awesome time.
Yeah. Then we got talking. Ben's business is internet type stuff. What do you, IT stuff, right?
You got it. Cybersecurity, network security, all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah.
All right. K-Data, that's the name of his company. If you need any advice on that, we'll give you a plug there, Ben. K-Data System.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Then you ended up building us a website for outfitting. And then got to know, how'd you get to know Chris?
Yeah, so Chris and I bonded up there on Bald Mountain. Back when I was bear hunting, he was doing the filming. You might recall for Big Woods Adventures TV. And he filmed me shoot my first black bear. And between him and even yourself, Hal, just spending that week with you guys out in the woods, even after I was successful that evening, you guys let me help you run baits and that kind of thing for the rest of the week. And
yeah, we always like free labor.
Well, I learned a lot, so it was a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we were back and forth for a while, and then shortly after that, Chris asked you to go to Ontario with him, right?
Yes.
I couldn't make that trip for some reason. I think you guys went before our hunt. We had something was going on where I couldn't go. But Chris went, and you went, and a few of the other guys. I think Rob Wing went out to Ontario.
You came in the last day that when we were heading out, you were coming in.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, you killed all the deer, so we couldn't get any, right?
I don't know if memory serves me right. I think you got one that week.
You left one for me. Yeah. Here's a few words from our sponsors. They're all top-notch people. We're glad to have them aboard. Make sure you support them. That's what keeps us going. Being the low-tech guy I am, there's one thing I've learned to embrace with technology, and it's my Onyx. I used to carry maps and GPS when it finally came out and stuff, but the Onyx has eliminated that because I've got my GPS in my phone now with my Onyx app. I can mark everything in that. It's helpful that I can show other people by putting a pin in if I want to send somebody to a place. Being a guide, that's important, you know. I can give them the pin, you know, put it in theirs, you know, I text it to them, whatever. So if you want to get your Onyx, get your Big Woods Bucks code, BWB, and get you 20% off, but I highly recommend it. Give you a little update. Skinner Sights. We all know they're the best site going, but it's a great company because Andy and the crew there are innovative and they're always thinking up either new models to make a site for, improve the sites, making mounts for scopes, and now they've come on with their own line of scopes and red dots. Whatever Andy does in the company, it's top-notch, first quality, and they stand behind everything, and we're glad to have them as a partner, and we hope you'll try their sites, and you can trust your life with those, and they're going to get you the game. So get your Skinner sights, and you can trust me that you're going to be glad you did. Just wanted to talk a little bit about minus 33 and the wool they have. which I believe is best wool going, whether it's base layers or your socks or whatever you're wearing, you got to have wool. I've been stressing that for people for years, to wear your wool, whether it's the outerwear or even your base layers and socks. I've been to the tour of the plant, see how they make their socks, and it's quality, the fit is right, and they're going to be long lasting. I've got socks I've had now for several years, and they look like I'll have them for several years more before they even think about wearing out. So I trust my life to wool, and you can too. Minus 33. All right, back to the podcast. And I know you have a camp in the UP of Michigan, right?
Yep, 2 of them, in fact.
2 of them now? All right. Yeah. So you've been hunting in that big woods, so evidently you wanted to learn a little bit more about it, so you stuck around, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Have you found, I was always curious about that. I mean, I know we've talked, but it's pretty similar to hunting here, I think, right? When you get into your big woods there.
Yeah, very similar. I would say, my experiences up in Ontario with you guys and, up in Maine, the terrain, very similar. Your mountains are bigger in Maine. I think Ontario's more flat. We got maybe 3,000 footers, they're babies, I think half the size of yours. And yeah, beyond that, little finer details, I haven't found that, I think you speak to the brown ash quite a bit for, signposts and that kind of thing. I haven't noticed that as a significant thing in Michigan, in the UP there so much. I mean, we have brown ash, but
Yeah, well, when we were going to Ontario, that's what I noticed out there too. You'd find a rub on a brown ash, but I never once I think we went for 10 years, we never found a signpost, right?
We found one on an island once. I went out with a couple of the guys and we found
did you?
A signpost on an island.
In Ontario, they were mostly on willows. There's several kinds of willows, but the ones that kind of get fairly big, 6-inch diameter, that seemed to be the predominant tree out there. And since then, I've learned from going other places, Montana and, Minnesota and that kind of stuff, I've learned that maybe that's not the critical tree in a certain area, so I didn't know any better till I started going to them places,
Yep.
But have you found signposts there?
Very few. Not like I saw in Ontario. Nothing like that.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if that's a function. And usually I tell the people here because we've got a lot of guys from Vermont, New Hampshire and stuff that hunt over here in Maine and stuff, or followers, or a lot of them come to my deer clinics, and they don't find any signposts either. And I know for sure in Vermont, or I suspect for surely the reason why would be their deer don't get old enough. I mean, they have a very high percentage of 1.5-year-old bucks get shot every year. I mean, it's like over half of the buck shot, maybe 90% of them, I don't know, and they don't really have big enough woods for deer to escape hunters, really, you know what I mean? They get hunted a little harder. So I suspect that's the reason, but I don't know if that would be the reason where you hunt in the UP.
Well, just to give some perspective on the UP, so my understanding is about 3% of Michigan's population of humans is what exists today in the UP. So 3% populated, just over 8 million acres of forested land, of which just over 4 million of that, 4.4, I think, is public forested land. The deer that we stopped doing we have a mandatory deer reporting system, but they stopped aging them, a few years ago. As you could get them aged and they would share that data. We're definitely killing, 3.5 and up is a higher percentage than the 1.5 year olds. Has been recent, info that they've shared from when they stopped doing the age checks. Yeah, I'm sure it was similar for you guys, that those winters of like 13, 14, 15 were just brutal. I would say by my camps, we lost, seemed like 90% of our deer.
Yeah. So that's a little over 10 years ago. I mean, it's plenty of time for them to come back, but if you lose 90%, they're not coming back in a big hurry, are they?
Right. Between bears, coyotes, bobcat, wolves, mountain lion, we got some lynx, very, very small population, but those things don't help.
Yeah. I would say.
What's the wolf population like? When we would go to Ontario, you'd see wolves, not all the time, but frequently enough you knew they were there. Are you likely, like if you hunt in the UP for a week, are you going to see a wolf?
No, not necessarily. Not where we're hunting anyways. You'd probably hear them at least.
Yeah.
Like tracks.
Tracks in the snow. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's enough of them where they're putting a herd on the deer herd, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Because the moose in typical wolf habitat, it's the moose that is the main prey, or caribou and stuff like that. So
Well, maybe that explains why our moose population isn't increasing any.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure that's the reason. I mean, I'm sure they get about every calf that's hits the ground, plus the adults. I mean, if the wolves are running in packs, they can kill anything,
Yeah.
Here we have the coyotes, but the coyotes here don't run in packs. I can remember a long time ago where you might see what you'd call a pack. There might be 4 or 5 of them, but I have never seen that in a long, long time. And usually it's a singles, and then when you get into January, when we're running with the dogs, there'll be a mating pair. And that's about it. Or the most, you might see 3 tracks together, and it's 2 males trying to compete for that female, but it's not a pack what you'd think about a family pack,
Sure.
So, but the wolves, I think, probably stay in packs a little bit more, and they can kill everything. Whenever they want, they're gonna get something, For all you big woods buck hunters, if you're looking for an ideal base camp for hunting in the big woods, in the Adirondacks and Tug Hill, you gotta call our friends at Christmas and Associates. For over 35 years, they've been providing land and camps to sportsmen, 5 to 50 acres. Rivers, streams, and ponds in some of the best locations, affordable prices, and in-house financing with low monthly payments. They can even build their Adirondack-style cabins on property you already own. For more info, call Christmas & Associates at 1-800-229-7843 or go to landandcamps.com. Visit Christmas and Associates on Facebook.
Yeah. My experience in Michigan has been both seeing packs as well as, just single. In fact, I've got a trail camera right on one of my cabins, and there's a single wolf that he's just living in that area. Definitely has a core area for him because it comes up pretty frequent.
Yeah, so now what I've been hearing, I just hear what I get from either little blips on the social media things about different areas or from people personally that hunt there, is the herd seems to be way down. And maybe it got started that way in them bad winters and it just can't recover with that kind of predation, right? You think that's what it is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's plenty of areas, camps that are reporting, they're lucky to see a deer, in a week's time. True everywhere, of course, but that, and they'll seems like they'll see the wolf packs move heavy in the area. Um, I haven't personally experienced this, but hearing from locals is like they're just decimating the deer or moving them out of the area at least, and then the wolves will move on because they're going to follow the food. And deer, thankfully, they're a very resilient animal. So I mean, you can get a bounce back, but it seems really slow, like you said.
Yeah.
Not like the past.
It's too bad, and it's too bad that it's always seemed to be these fish and wildlife agencies seem to focus on trying to protect a predator over the prey. It's almost like they don't understand if you don't have enough prey, you ain't going to have the predators are going to die off when the prey does. So you're not helping them by letting them keep the prey down. It's not helping.
Yeah, it's our own state's fault that we allowed the feds to manage our wolf population. People don't get it. They thought the vote was about whether we should have a hunt or not, and it wasn't about that at all. It's just, you know, ignorance.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around. So it's too bad. So if you go up to you take a week or so to go up to your camp? Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah, for the gun season, we'll generally spend at least a week. Quite often, like my wife and I will go up, right after Thanksgiving as well. Michigan opener is always on the 15th. It's like a holiday here. Uh, Camp's called Camp Benny, and the kind of the whole vision behind that, it wasn't to be about me, but it was more of an idea. I grew up going to deer camps with the older gen, and I learned so much from them when it comes to woodsmanship skills and what to do even when you get your first deer. How do you know that stuff? You don't have somebody mentoring you in some way. And so the generally you get the guys that are sold, they can't even go out anymore, but they're hanging around the camp because they just love it. It's just part of them. They can't miss it. They'll do it till the day they die, and
Wow.
uh, I just kind of thought that's something that I would like to repeat, a legacy for my own family and friends. And that whole deer camp experience is something I'm passionate about. So, yeah.
So you got to hunt through the good times and the bad times, right?
Yep. No doubt there's times I'm up there, plenty of times, in fact, where I'm thinking biggest buck of my life is probably back home right now, but that's okay.
Yeah, because you live in the southern part of Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, where there's obviously way more deer
Yep.
and no wolves, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would uh I'm just trying to get a feel for it too, was what would you expect, if you went up to your camp and go hunting, are you going to see some deer in a week?
Yeah. The more years I spend up there, the better I know the lay of the land and, you know, areas they tend to hang out and be around. And yeah, I could see anywheres from, the better years. I might see 6, maybe even 10 in a day. Uh, the more harsh years, nothing in a day. It just kind of ebbs and flows.
Yeah. 6 to 10 in a day, that's better than out here.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not feeling bad for you. I've been sitting here feeling bad for you, but maybe I'm not feeling bad for you anymore.
No, we've done all right the last couple years, especially just seeing the younger guys coming up to camp and seeing them be successful brings a lot of joy to me.
Yeah, for sure. Next generation, pass it on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's cool. Do you usually, whoop, go ahead.
Last couple years, Ben Jr., he shot the first buck near out of my newer camp. I call it Camp 2.0. Camp 1.0 started in 2001. Um, they're both pretty humble camps, but one is much more humble than the other one. And anyways, he shot a buck. Had been easily 5, 6 years old. My son-in-law Brian shot his first big woods buck a couple years back, about the same age class. And 2 years ago, we got dropped a couple more, in that age range. So it's good to see from the earlier years.
That sounds good. You're giving me a little courage to maybe come out there then.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Are there many guys out there tracking, or are most guys sitters out there?
I would say most are sitters, but most are pretty familiar with tracking. We're southern part of state. It's like a totally foreign concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you guys using for equipment? Like, are guys out there into bolt guns and scopes, or do they use pumps and lever guns like we do up here with peep sights? Or what's a typical deer gun look like out there?
That's a good question. I would say most are probably scoped. I would say more scope than those with open sights, iron sights, or peep sight. Some of us, we just enjoy different calibers and different guns. We always got, say our favorites. Whatever's an extension of our arm is ideal, right?
Yeah. Learn how to operate it. I remember, I can't remember what year it was, but it was earlier on. You had me and Chris come out, and I did a seminar. You set it up in your church there. And when you talk about the people up in the UP, they familiar with tracking and stuff. I remember when I was given back then it was my standard seminar, let's say, try to go through what I'd taught in my first book. I would be looking out there at the audience, and I was getting a lot of these like blank stares, and I'm thinking, I don't think they're relating to this here.
Yeah, came and broke the ice a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I will say, the deer camp community seems to be like a special one. Kind of can quickly find like common ground to be a tight group. I'm sure you find it, New England as well, but I'm finding that those that track in Michigan are seeming to find each other and, you know, even look for ways to connect and do some tracking together and that kind of thing. It's another, tight knit community.
Yeah, I think they're doing it everywhere now because I get this. It's the same thing with the Wisconsin guys now. There's a bunch of them that are starting to talk, and of course they got now with Facebook, you can get on them groups with like-minded people and find each other. And I had when I started guiding again a couple of weeks there back, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. There was a guy from Michigan, not Michigan, from Wisconsin that came out and he hunted with me, I think 3 years in a row, came the second week. His name was Jerry Smith, and he got the bug for it, and he's, talked to his buddies, and he's reached out, and they got kind of a group over there that's doing it. Actually, he hunts Wisconsin, and he comes over into, I don't know about your territory necessarily, but the UP, he hunts in the UP and Michigan some too. I think mainly if there's snow. I think that's what he's starting to do is chase the snow.
Sure. Yeah. I'll say, you came to mind, for me. Amy and I, we had recently went to South Africa for an anniversary trip to do some hunting, and we always had a tracker with us, and to see them track without snow was incredible. So very impressed with that.
Yeah, but you know what? That sand out there is kind of like snow.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was, they're sorting through quite the goat paths of tracks.
Right. That's the thing. I've heard people talk about that, and that's impressive to be able to sort through a whole herd of animals and keep on the right one. I mean, I don't. They've probably been doing it since they've been weaned or something. Them guys, Yeah, when they're little, they start.
Yeah, I was asking about how the gentleman that was with us, who was his mentor, how did he learn, that kind of thing, and sounds like his uncle was a famous tracker of lions, not wounded lions. Like, hey, we need to go find a lion to pursue, track them, and get their shot. And he was one of the top in the continent of Africa, and that was his mentor. And man, the gentleman that was with me, his name was Jimson, and he, like I said, through those goat paths very efficiently, he could follow that track. And he mentioned just noticing a little chip in the hoof or whatever. And sure enough, when we caught up to it and took a look at it, it's like, yep, there's that chip.
I think they probably also, because they live outside basically, and they're in with nature. I bet all their senses are honed probably kind of like an animal. I bet they have a great sense of smell and all that.
Right?
Yeah, I would think that's a lot to do with things. They might even be able to smell blood on a wounded one. Who knows? You know what I mean? It's crazy, but yeah, that's cool. You got some nice animals there. I've been seeing the pictures there.
Hey, thank you.
I know a bunch of people that have been, and it looks like a fun trip, really.
Yeah. Yep.
How many different critters did you get out there, Ben?
Between my wife and I, we shot 11.
What was your favorite thing to hunt over there?
Um, it's tough for me to pick a top favorite, but one of the top three, I shot a kudu. He had 54-inch horn.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I shot a stallion zebra. Uh, Man, those things are a lot bigger than I would have imagined. I asked the PH that I was with, how much does this thing weigh? Because he had just a barrel of a gut. He said about 700 pounds. Like, oh my gosh, I believe it's huge.
Yeah.
And then third would probably be the baboon, just because I had a great story it went with it. And of course, we got nothing in North America, like these animals. So it's just kind of fascinating.
Yeah. So you're going to have a big taxidermy bill?
I
That's one thing I think about doing that. Yeah, to get all them, and then you want to be able to show them off. So you're going to have a taxidermy bill. That's probably going to be more than the trip.
yeah, probably.
I'm not really into African hunting like some people, but I follow it enough to know that a 54-inch kudu is a good one.
Yeah, thank you. I was super excited about it. And the beauty of it is, each of these were spot and stock, and I failed plenty before I succeeded, so it just made it that much better.
Yeah.
Did they? I've got a guy on Facebook that I follow, and he has a place over there in South Africa, and he puts on hunts. But he's got a guy there that's I guess you'd call him a chef. I don't know what they call him over there, but a guy that cooks the wild game for him. Was the kudu? Was it good to eat?
The kudu was my favorite. The back straps from that were better than I think anything else.
Hmm.
Yep.
Does it compare to deer or elk or anything here?
I would say better than a deer backstrap. Probably similar to an elk. Caribou is one of my favorite. I would say not maybe quite that good, but yeah.
Yeah. Just good meat, right?
Yeah. And it was neat to see that, once I harvested the animal, we got it back to camp, and there were people from the village there. I mean, just grinning ear to ear, ready to start going to town to get processing. And they're, other than what was in the stomach of the animal, they used every single bit of it. I mean, more than what we would use out of our whitetail, back home. So that was pretty impressive, I thought.
Yeah. Huh.
Even
Yeah.
to shoot a warthog, they're like, "Hey, you're gonna feed, 40 people tonight," kind of thing. So that was just, felt good. Know that, your dollars and the pursuit, it's not just about getting a shoulder mount.
Yeah. You're helping to feed a lot of people over there that need it.
Absolutely.
And they depend on those dollars too. That's what their economy is based on. People going over there and spending money to hunt that game. It's it's the same thing. Same thing in America. The hunters are the ones that are paying for the conservation.
Right on. Yeah. Goes into building that herd up, for the future. It's being very responsible with what's been given to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting back to deer.
Yeah.
You haven't been here yet. How come? Out to Maine for deer.
I need to do that, Hal.
I've been thinking that right along.
Yeah. That's on my list. I need to get out there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but you did go to Ontario, which again is similar. It's funny that it's every place if you go and it's big woods, I have found that it's similar, but there are differences. Everywhere I go, I can see some different things, whether it's like well, I'll take Ontario, the biggest thing I learned, because that was one of the first places that I really started, getting away from here. And out there, the whole thing was the track size. We run around for a day there without, like, geez, where's all the big deer? We heard about all the big deer in Ontario, and they were all little tracks, that you wouldn't even bother to follow. So I learned that about out there. And even though they're big deer, they're not big tracks. Once in a while, over the years of hunting there, once in a while we'd find a track that would be, in the league of the ones that we have here, And I know one I shot, that might have been the one, I don't know if that's the one I shot the year you guys were there, I'm not sure, but I call him the Camp 6 buck there. And that buck had a big foot, like a well over 200-pound buck here. Most of them weren't. And then I did find another one, and we ended up, this was way to the south of where we stayed, and they had just opened up that area, but there was one down there which would have been a track that was like as big of a track as you'd even see here. But those were so rare, you didn't run around and wait till you found something like that,
Most of the bucks that we tracked up there look like they would be like 175-pound deer up here.
Yeah, by the track. Yeah, they'd look like 2.5-year-old buck tracks,
And the deer were just as big for sure, but just the feet weren't.
Yeah. And then the thing I noticed the most, obviously, even in Maine, it may be, I hunted up in the UP there a couple of years, you knew that, but I did find some tracks up there that were, like nice big buck tracks for here. You've seen them too, right?
Yep.
Because it's the northern borealis deer that you have in that UP, the same subspecies as here. And, but by hunting over in the Adirondacks, for example, it's a different deer. And southern Maine is too. I go down to southern Maine. If I get down central southern Maine turkey hunting, I never see a deer track that I would ever consider a track that I would follow. So there's you get down halfway through Maine and you're getting into that Virginia whitetail. It's the same down through New England all the way to Virginia, I guess, right? Virginia whitetail. But in the other thing I noticed in the Adirondacks was when I wait a half an hour after I jump them, I found out that may not be the best strategy in the Adirondacks. And it took me a while to put it all together, but and in some places it is, because there's some place the Adirondacks, they still log, but a lot of it's not. It's that old growth, and it's open woods. Whether it's softwood or hardwood, it's more open. And there, the bucks their escape mechanism is to run for a long ways and get up on a ridge where they can look 200 yards back before they stop. So they don't, like ours will go off, and not always, but 9 out of 10 times they'll go 100 to 300-400 yards and they stop and look back. They don't do that very often in the Adirondacks. They go and get somewhere else and look back. So no sense of waiting, because the time they run a mile in 5-10 minutes, you're going to be an hour doing it,
Yeah.
So you burnt the time up. So yeah, all the big woods hunting is not the same. You can use similar tactics, but you just adjust to your area, that's all.
I remember how surprised we were those first few years in Ontario. You jump a deer, they'd run off about 100 yards and turn around and watch every time. They wouldn't go more than 100 yards, and they were locked right back up again.
Yep. And I think a lot of that was when we started it, they didn't have any hunting pressure.
Yeah.
They were all
hadn't been cut. It was all thick woods.
Yep. And, but yeah.
I remember Chris Dalty and I going after one in Ontario, and he was pointing out to me how that buck was just watching us from up above and just laughing as we're working our tails off to get up there. He's just standing on the ledge looking down, watching us on that backtrack, bugger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say, as far as different areas, you're absolutely right. The difference between hunting Manitoba and Ontario, there's quite a bit of difference, of the more the bush type terrain that we had in Manitoba. This buck right here, he was 272 pounds live weight. That I shot with my muzzleloader in October. And the gentleman, when we were looking at him, we figured 2.5, maybe 3.5 years old. You'll find that in Michigan with that body weight. I not so common.
Yeah, because in Michigan they probably don't kill too many that dress over 200, do they?
Not super often. I mean, you hear about it for sure, but
yeah,
not like what we were seeing in Manitoba. That was just nothing, the norm.
Yeah, those, I don't know what. I always assume, because those deer, and even those ones in Ontario, and I would assume Manitoba, Saskatchewan, migrated north over the years. They didn't always have white-tailed deer up there, and they migrated north. So maybe they're the Dakota whitetail subspecies or whatever it was,
Sure.
So, yeah. But I think because of just the way things adapt, they would have to be a bigger body weight there. The ones that didn't have the bigger body weight are the ones that didn't make it to pass their genes, because not that they get a lot of snow there, because they told us in Ontario, that area, the guy Steve we rented the camp from, said they got an average of 40 inches of snow a year. Well, deer don't even have to yard up in that. And there wasn't any deer yards up in Ontario where we hunted. There was no deer yards per se. They just seemed to move into the softwood canopy and then get out and feed the edge of them cuts or something. They didn't go anywhere to get to a deer yard. And I'm sure that's the same in right across the Canadian provinces, you know. So they had to get bigger to make it. The biggest one survived and passed it along, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Hal here. I just want to take a minute to talk about our wool gear. Our Big Woods Bucks wool gear it's the best value there is on the market. We have 100% virgin wool clothing, whether it's our packs, pants, jackets, whatever. The virgin wool it's the natural fiber from the sheep, and it wraps into a tight thread. That's what makes it waterproof, pretty much wind resistant, and comfortable to wear. It's quiet for hunting, especially in the big woods. You can't find anything better than wool clothing. So we have ours. It's all made in USA with all US accessories and everything. We've got, years of experience guiding and it's thought that's going into this stuff. So we've tried to keep the average hunter in mind and kept the price point at where people can afford it. We hope you enjoy it. Wear your woolies. Caught in his death.
It seemed to me like when we were out there, they don't get the snow that we do, but their cold weather got there quick, because when we hunted there in December, they get a lot of 20 below zero stuff in December, and we don't usually get that till later on.
Another reason they need the body weight, right?
Yeah.
For the cold and stuff. So, yeah. It's interesting to go around to the different places and hunt and just adapt to them. You can use the specifics of the habits of the deer, and then you might have to just figure out, might take your little time to figure out the little differences, I guess I'd say,
Yeah, I would say, you roam the state of Michigan, there's areas where, as long as the deer can reach maturity, then, you can see where it's more common that they'll get them, in the 200-pound range. But and you got other areas that they even have the age with them, but they're never putting on that kind of weight.
Yeah.
What about like antler size, Ben? Like, is 120 to 140 inch antlers, is that what you could expect to get in the areas where you hunt?
More closer to the 120.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, you certainly could shoot 140, but 110, 120 would be much more common.
Yeah.
And a lot of that attributes to you get those bad winters up there, and they just, the nutrition in the spring goes to the body before it goes to the antlers,
Yeah.
We'll see the same thing here, if you have a bad winter, and the moose are the same way, believe it or not. If they struggle, their antlers on average, when they're not as healthy, are not going to be as big, but for sure the deer,
Yep. Yeah, and there is a part, I don't know if you knew this or not already, on the southwest end of the UP, there's actually quite a farm belt right there. Of course, deer population shoots right up, around that area. But snow-wise, you're talking very minimal, like 50 some inches a year. Be similar to what we would get, down home, southern Michigan.
Yeah.
Versus hundreds of inches a year,
Yeah. Where would that start? Like, kind of like below them Porcupine Mountains there or something?
As far south as you can go to where you're about hitting Wisconsin. It's right by that edge to the south, be Menominee.
Yeah. Because I can remember driving there, like from Duluth or something, coming up that way, and coming across below Wisconsin maybe, but I can remember farmland in the UP there, driving through. Yeah.
Yeah, before anybody gets too excited, note the farmland, so that means it's private land.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but up up where you were at, I think that's chunk is, I even have that here. That's something like a million acres, almost 993,000 acres for Ottawa National Forest. Hiawatha is another big chunk of public. It's like 800 and some thousand acres.
Yeah, plenty of public land, huh?
Yep.
And I betcha most of the deer hunters barely get in there, do they?
Right.
Yeah, same as anywhere.
Or they're right by the roads, Nobody wants to work too hard.
Yeah. Anytime I've been out that way, or even that time me and Chris ended up over in Minnesota there for a few days, if you saw a human boot print, like beyond several hundred yards from the road, it was on some kind of a trail, like an old logging road or something like that. There was no tracks of a person actually in the woods,
Yeah, and there, as you know, that there isn't too much. I mean, for anybody to really have for barriers, I looked all over the UP to see basically how far could you possibly get from a road in any one direction, and most areas, the furthest you could possibly get was only 3 or 4 miles before you're where you're away from a road. If you went a particular direction, there were some that I got maybe nearly twice that, but that was pretty rare.
Yeah.
Similar to northern Maine, then there's a lot of logging roads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of timber property.
Yeah. So you got any pointers on where everybody should go hunt? Got any honey holes?
As they say, there's nothing better than getting boots on the ground, right?
Well, like I said, you encouraged me thinking about it, because seems like the reports I've been getting from guys for the last several years is, one, of course, everybody knows the wolves are a problem, but I mean, maybe it's just because some of the guys that are maybe saying it's gone downhill, it's because maybe there was so many more before it happened that when it drops down, it's like the end of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That seems to be what it's like, because, I mean, we had that same thing when we had our bad winters here were 2007, 8, 9, those 2 winters here where we lost in northern Maine. And here, I always figured it was half, right? Half the deer herd. But then some of the ones, the deer yards or what's left of them in the north, they were saying maybe as much as 85%. So, yeah, takes a while to get back from there.
You take up in zone 1 and 2 where we do our moose hunts back after those bad winters. It was a big deal to see a deer track in the mud. Remember, we'd check the roads when we were scouting for moose, and didn't see many deer tracks.
These wet winter roads, moose hunting and stuff, and you could hunt moose for a week up there, and you might see an old dried up deer track in the mud somewhere that's probably made in the summer, but there weren't many deer. But they're starting to come back now. There's starting to be some, but it's nothing to light your fire about. But there's enough where it's to the point now that in most of the north. The funny thing is, I tell people, if you get in the peripheral of our North Maine woods, where they actually now, most of them go towards they go into Canada yard or towards towns, they move out of there. Those areas have a relatively good population, but in the core of the North Maine woods, it's not very high, and if you're going to expect much success there, you probably want to have snow, plan around snow,
Yeah, I mean, and on the Michigan side, we've been very fortunate that we've had some series of mild winters. Otherwise, once that snow gets deep, the deer yards that are going to be successful are the town deer, the ones that head that way. Anyone that head to the yards, the wolves just going to follow them in there and decimate them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some winters here lately, like even last winter. I don't think probably half the deer came to town. They're starting to stay, but over the years, the woods gets better and better for them. It's after they've cut, it starts to grow and thicken up, and it makes a place where they can stay again, so.
Yeah.
And once they stay somewhere, they'll probably try it again.
I think though, like in this part of the state here in the Western Mountains, I think we've got more deer now than we've had in the 2000s, don't you? I think it's the best that it's been in the 2000s.
Yeah, and the tagging report shows it. We went from, I don't know, I remember back, I started here in 1980, and it seemed like they'd tag here in town, 200 and something deer a year, and then in the 80s and the 90s, and then in the 2000s, I think it started getting down into the 100s, high 100s maybe, because they were slowly cutting the deer yards. That's part of it. And then when we had those 2 bad winters, I think that next year it dropped to 75.
It was under 100.
Yeah, it dropped like to 75 they tagged here. And then the next year it was about 100, and it stayed that way for like almost 10 years. It was between 100 and 125, steady. And then all of a sudden, I think it was 2019 or 20. No, must have been, this is 25. No, 21 probably. It jumped from 125 to 250. It doubled in 1 year. Now, part of that was they gave more
Some doe tags.
doe tags out, but it wasn't everything, because I looked at it and it was in the same percentage. Like if they tagged $100 and 25 does, they tagged $200 and 50 does is what happened. And then the next year it dropped back to 200 2 years ago. And then last year it jumped to 350. That's a big jump.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what it seems to me like is a lot of 2.5-year-old. Most people have trouble if they see an 8-point buck that's 170 pounds. They have a hard time not pulling the trigger. They're killing lots of 2.5 and 3.5-year-old bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a report from here. I'm glad to hear like I said, you've encouraged me a little bit about out there. I was taking at it. It was, getting to be a lost cause there, but you're telling us it's not, right?
Right. It's not. It's definitely worth hunting. There's some big boys out there. There's no question about it.
Yeah. All right. Everybody hears that now. You got it from Ben. Head to the UP. Season starts the 15th of November. Yeah. Then what is it, 2 weeks for rifle?
Yep. Through the end of November.
And then you have a muzzleload, a short one, right?
Yep. I think that usually opens first Friday of December.
For a few days?
Yep. About a week.
A week, yeah. Might get some tracking snow then.
Yeah. Yep. You just might have to move around a bit from if you did your scouting earlier in the season, that's not going to help you.
If you got any snow, they might not be there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's probably like here, they travel probably a long ways to get to a deer yard now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Would love to have you guys out sometime.
I know for me, I know it's hard to plan because I'm running things at the lodge, doing the hunts. It's hard to plan anything ahead. I'm kind of a spur of the moment guy now, where if I'm not going anywhere till I shoot a buck here anyway, because I'd rather hunt here than anywhere. But I'm a spur of the moment guy. So if I call you sometime and said, "Can I come out?" It'd be spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there'd have to be snow, but if there's snow, you'll be there.
Yep.
More than likely. Sounds good.
Yes, sir.
Got anything else you want to add? think we've had a good conversation here.
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on and talk hunting with you. It's been a while since we've connected, and it's just great, talk about stuff we enjoy thoroughly, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah.
It's good to have you on, Ben.
Yeah. Well, keep in touch. I know we see stuff on Facebook, but can keep in touch, and we'll hopefully to see you sometime soon.
Yeah. Either I'll get out to Maine or you get out to Michigan, or we'll do both.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
By the way,
Yeah.
if anyone is interested, just a quick plug on YouTube or Instagram, they could check out Camp Benny, and we post a lot of videos about our deer hunts and deer camp experience.
Okay. Is that a YouTube channel too, or
Yep, on YouTube if they just search Camp Benny, 2 words.
Camp Benny?
Camp Benny.
How'd you come up with that name? Yeah. Camp Benny. Get all your info from Ben about the UP at Camp Benny. Subscribe. All right. Great having you.
Hey, thanks for your time. You guys take care.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Well, great having Ben on. Good talking about deer hunting and other stuff. And as always, support our sponsors. That's what keeps us going. And until next time, good luck on the trail.